All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. Over the next hour, I actually have two sessions. So the first 30 minutes is going to be talking about ElectricFlow, which is ElectricCloud's orchestration. It's a DevOps automation platform. You've heard a lot about it already from a couple of folks on the team. The second half hour, if you are interested, we'll be talking about another product that fits right into ElectricFlow called Electric Accelerator. And so let's go ahead and get started. One of the things that we think about a lot is in the market today is software. All of us are here because software is getting increasingly important. The way that I look at software and the way that I look at pretty much anything, if you think about it from an agile mindset, is the faster you can have cycle times, the better you can adapt to your environment. It hasn't worked out so well for the fruit fly, right? The fruit fly, they live for only 12 hours or something like that. So they have lots of generations very quickly. However, they haven't seemed to evolve into sentient things that drive cars and do all the stuff that we can do. We happen to have found our niche as human beings in the pace of evolution that allows us to adapt to our environment. Although maybe now with all of the global warming and everything that we're doing, we're going to eliminate our ability to adapt to it, and we're going to force ourselves into requiring more and more technology like air conditioning, right, to make sure that we're comfortable and that we're able to survive on the planet. If you look at software as a living organism, and you think about the pace of evolution that we've had, if you go back to the operating systems that we're all used to and the languages that sort of started this whole process, it was decades from us going from punch cards on big VAXs to having very clean, modern operating systems like Windows 10 and the Mac OS and all the other more modern operating systems that are out there. If you think about mobile, that time frame has been compressed. We're getting better at evolving our software, right? These cycle times are coming down. I don't know if any of you guys had that Nokia, the little chocolate bar Nokia, right? Everybody that I knew had that phone, and now you can't find them anymore. That style of phone is basically extinct now, right? Maybe your grandparents have it because they don't want the smartphone, but everybody's moved to sort of a smarter device now. And if you look at the software powering these smart devices, that software is Etsy, Amazon, whatever, that is being updated not just in years, but in minutes. Every few minutes or every couple seconds, we've got a new version of Amazon or a new part of that software stack available for people to look at and use and take advantage of. And so we look out at that and we say, sort of our point of view, if you will, about software is that every business is a software business. This is not new. Software is sort of eating the world. It's that Mark Andreessen quote that we've all heard. Continuous delivery is the culmination or the logical sort of stopping point for Agile. If you're doing Agile development and you're not doing DevOps and continuous delivery, all the value that you're creating, you're shipping better shelfware faster. And you want to be shipping better software faster. You want end users to be able to take advantage of all this value that you're creating. And so in order to do that, to realize this continuous delivery, right, you've got CAMs, right? Automation is part of that, and acceleration is another key part of that as well, again, so you can evolve your software more quickly. And so that's what we do. That's what ElectricCloud does. I'm not going to read through the slide, but our focus is helping people deliver better software faster. That's why, from a products perspective, we do what we do. That's why, from a community perspective, we're here with you guys today, partnering with Gene Kim to make sure that we are collecting these stories about people who are successful with whatever tools they happen to have, right, to help advance the cause of great software. So as we talk to prospects and customers and other folks in the industry, the things that we see from a process perspective, there's a typical pattern that folks have for delivering software into production. You build it, you test it, and you release it. A lot of times in those steps, there's manual handoffs. Manual handoffs eliminate metadata around what's happening, right? People aren't very good at communicating and documenting exactly what they've communicated about when they're passing things between teams. So folks, what they do in that build segment and the test segment and the release segment, they're going to optimize those individual parts of that process and the great unwashed part of it, those manual handoffs remain. So if you look at a value stream map, those are the parts that are really going to kill your cycle time, right? You can add automation to that. You can get what, from a relatively speaking, what used to take weeks, you can drive that down considerably, right? By automating a lot of that, by automating those handoffs between teams, by creating more self-service IT options to create environments for your developers, for your QA people, even for the folks in production, right? So that there's that fidelity of those things. And so that really helps out a lot of our customers. And of course, the next topic, which I'll be talking about in about 30 minutes, is once you've optimized that whole pathway to production, where do you go from there? And of course, we have an answer for that one as well. From an orchestration automation perspective, we have a product called ElectricFlow. It's based on a product that's been in the market, been used by companies like Qualcomm, Cisco, HP, huge companies with lots and lots of complex projects, deploying software to lots and lots of different environments, hundreds, if not thousands of different developers, all trying to get access and do integration with that core system on a daily basis, right? So complex. And we've been doing that for a long time. So that's sort of our bread and butter, is handling enterprise scale continuous integration and continuous delivery. And we do that using this platform, and we actually have built domain-specific components or modules on top of it, because at its core, ElectricFlow is sort of like a box of Legos. You can really do just about anything with it. We wanted to make it really easy for people who are starting this sort of DevOps and continuous delivery journey to be able to come right in and just say, okay, all I want to do is I want to automate my builds and my tests, right? Or I want to be able to automate my deployments. And what we recently released is ElectricFlow Release, which helps you automate not only those deployments, but the promotion of those different bits across multiple parts of your environment. And so let's drill down and talk a little bit more about those. And Dean, I'm noticing that the timer is not actually moving. So I'm going to assume that I've gone, okay, about 10 minutes. So that's great. So ElectricFlow, this DevOps automation, if I ask out in the audience here, how many of you guys use some form of automation as part of the job that you do? Raise your hand. You rely on automation. That's great. Automation is a wonderful thing. I'm a lazy person, so I will automate as much as I possibly can. There's a great XKCD comic where he talks about automating things, spending 8 hours automating something that you've only done once and you'll never do again. So maybe not the best use of your time. But when you have things, even if they're a small amount of time, if you do them a lot, it makes a ton of sense to automate them. There's a ton of ROI. And so what ElectricFlow allows you to do, all these islands of automation that you guys are already probably working on or working with, you've optimized that island, but the great swath of empty space in between your group and some other group, there's no linkage there. Or you force the linkage as the tail end of yours, you sort of call their thing, right? There's no central orchestration for a lot of the customers, a lot of the prospects that we talk to. So what ElectricFlow allows you to do is it connects those islands of automation, gives you that end-to-end visibility that you need, because our CTO, he loves this comment, and I love it as well. Automation is auditing, right? If you have not documented your process, but you automate it, by automating it, you are documenting it. And by running that automation, because it's all contained within a single orchestration, it's auditable, as long as you're capturing that information, which of course we do. Because of the types of customers we work with, they're running hundreds, if not thousands of jobs per hour, right? One of our customers, Qualcomm, is running millions of jobs per month. Those can't fail. When they have a production outage at Qualcomm, Google gives them versions of the Android operating system with a carrot and a stick, right? The carrot is you get it before a lot of other people might. The stick is if you don't have it released by a certain date, you're going to start paying Google money. So Qualcomm can't afford to not have this production life cycle going at all times. And so we have clustering that allows them to scale up horizontally and never really miss any of those jobs, to make sure that those jobs, once they're started, they're going to complete. You won't wake up at 3 in the morning after 3/4 of your 12-hour build and tests have occurred and find out that the job died last night while you were sleeping, which is a pain. And then, of course, the on-demand access, making sure that folks can come in based on who they are, the right entitlements, right? You have to make sure that you have the right security around what you're allowing folks to do. But you can allow anybody to go in and spool up an environment using the credentials that you want them to be using. And they don't have to worry about understanding. I don't need to know OpenStack. I don't need to know what AMI image I'm supposed to be using. As a developer, as a QA person, as a production deployment or a release manager, all I have to do is press the button. So one of the most important things about orchestrating a bunch of tools for people is making sure that you can work with all the tools that the people love. You look at the back of the laptops of most of the folks at the show, and there are stickers plastered all over them. Those stickers are there because people like the tools that they use, right? You guys are craftsmen. They're artisans. You have tools that you've come to learn to trust and depend on. So coming into an organization and saying, okay, throw out everything that you've got already, throw away all of your process, throw away all of your tools, and just use this one thing is a non-starter for people, especially when you're going across multiple different teams, right? Because one team might use Chef, another team might use Puppet. Who wins, right? The good news is you don't have to choose. They can use whatever they need to get the outcome that they want using ElectricFlow. We plug right into all the tools that you're already using. Our deploy product takes deployments, the scripts and stuff that you guys are likely already using. We help you model those applications by connecting the different artifacts that you have with actual deployment processes that can be used across any different type of environment. So it abstracts away a lot of that complexity for you and makes it much more fluid, much more flexible as to how and where you deploy it. Our release product, which we just announced last week, takes all of the benefits of the platform, the model-driven behavior of the application that we allow you to deploy, and it gives you the ability to take a look at those applications and put them where you need them to for each phase of that life cycle, right? So for staging into UAT, you can track and know exactly where everything is instead of saying, well, I think the right build is on that system in that environment, go ahead and do some testing on it, right? You can actually see exactly what is on that system. You can know if there's drift, if it's not at the right version, and you can correct that pretty easily. And so what we've seen using this sort of set of tools from people, we've seen a fantastic payoff for all of our customers, the ROI for our customers, 90% higher quality. Quality is super important if you're wanting to compete in this world. Delivering crap faster is not going to win you a lot of customers, right? So making sure that your cycle times are leading you to better and better product is super important. Better infrastructure utilization. A lot of folks complain about having a build farm here, one in India, one in the Ukraine, one in Germany, right? And they're only being used when those people are awake. So by using a tool like ElectricFlow, either you're using cloud resources, private cloud resources, or physical resources, you can take advantage of all that horsepower no matter where you are in the world and make sure that that work is being done in a very scalable, very repeatable fashion. Example of a customer, Family Search. They were taking 90 days for once code was committed, the sort of the typical null deployment. 90 days getting a comment into the text that would never have caused any change to the actual runtime of the code, but it would take 90 days to get that out onto a production instance. And we helped to chop that down to 10 minutes just through automation, right? Bunch of folks are using our software to help out with both the deployment side of things. You guys maybe saw Lego, you maybe saw E-Trade. There's another one, I think right now competing with me, which I would like to be watching, which is HP and their chat ops that they're doing. The folks that actually implemented it, you saw it during the plenary session, but the folks who implemented are actually talking about it. I would urge you to go watch that, the replay on that. All these folks are using our product very successfully and at huge scale to help them achieve this velocity that they're looking for. So I have 7 minutes left. I'm going to go through a couple of enterprise differentiated features that we have as a way to help open your eyes to some of the things that we've done to help make the platform better for large enterprises. There are a lot of great tools out there to do automation, right? And for a lot of people, there are plenty, there are enough. What we find is that folks who sometimes go down the road of saying, I'm just going to use open source, they run into some barriers that our products seem particularly well suited to address. And so I'm going to walk through a couple of those. The first one is the fact that we have amazing integration capabilities with the tools that you're already using, with the way that you're already working, and with the way that you like to work, right? So we plug in with Jenkins, we plug in with Selenium, we plug into all the different tools that you care about. We also let you visually model your workflow in our UI. You can then export that visually modeled workflow as code, right? Chef and Puppet, they talk a lot about infrastructure as code. We talk about process as code. There was a fella, Greg Maxey, who did a session on that. I would urge you also to go and watch that if this is something you're interested in. The fidelity of the environment, which is infrastructure as code, doesn't matter if you don't have fidelity of process. If you're deploying with a person in production and you're using some automated system in QA, well, then there's an opportunity for there to be a mismatch. That fidelity is not there and you're going to run into some problems. So a domain-specific language that was written in Groovy allows you to capture exactly the steps that you want, be able to do code revisions on that, check it in, check it out, just like you would with infrastructure as code, has really been a boon to our customers when they're trying to onboard applications. The Flow platform allows, as a runtime, allows you to dynamically create DSL that you can use to then import your applications. So extremely powerful. Smart deployments, right? So you have this monolithic application with a bunch of different WAR files and a bunch of different configuration files that you're using. If you make a code change and the 5 terabyte WAR file doesn't have any changes to it, why do you need to send all that stuff back to wherever, whether it's on Amazon or in some other data center or even right next to you? Why incur the bandwidth or time overhead or the risk of trying to redeploy that, right? So Smart Deploy automatically takes care of that for you by not redeploying things that haven't changed. Dynamic cloud environments, we talked about this a little bit earlier, gives you an easy way to push a button and have these environments pop up with an application on them, empty, something great for somebody to test with. Plugs right in with the configuration management tools you're already using and the clouds that you care about. So snapshots, once you've figured out a recipe that you like for a cake, wouldn't it be great to be able to just say, boom, I want to be able to recreate this at any point in time? Well, that's what the snapshot allows you to do. You can set the process that you care about, the environments that you want, as well as the binary, the versions that you think are the best suited for release. Snapshot those, and then you move those very fluidly through your pipeline so that there's no chance for somebody to accidentally misconfigure it down the line. Again, fidelity of process, environment, binaries, super important to being able to move very quickly, very safely. Master components. A lot of times you have small teams. That small team, they have their best practice. They're going to do things the way they want to do it. That's great. Big enterprises, those small teams, there are 50 of them. They all have their own best practices. They all have their own unique way of trying to do things. A lot of times that's not the best way of doing things. Sometimes it is, and it's great if you could do that. Sometimes it's not. And so we allow for master components that allow you to set a, maybe not the best practice, but your good practice as to how you like these components to be deployed. Once that's done, then you can either say other people can subscribe to those, reuse those components, either as a reference so that if you change it later, it will change it everywhere, trickle down so you don't have to go and manually recode all of these different components, or they can make a copy of it and make it their own on their local, in their local work group. Object versioning, we talk a lot about continuous delivery and DevOps and how versioning is so important. Configuration management is so important. Pulling all that stuff and putting it in version control is so important. Why shouldn't your CD pipeline be versioned? When you have Sony, who's another customer of ours, they did a talk on the versioning of their CD pipeline. They have multiple different SCMs that are all working on the same single pipeline. And so if I've got somebody over there who's working on this pipeline, this production pipeline, and I make a change at the same time they do, I could have just ruined my competitive advantage, which is a fast pathway to production. And so by giving us this visibility into exactly who made the change, when did they make the change, what was that change, and can I roll back that change, we give people the opportunity to treat their continuous delivery pipeline as code, basically. And then finally, the StatsD and Graphite integration. Flow is super important, right? DevOps, 3 ways. System level view is great. Flow is also very good, understanding what's actually happening. And so we've provided this integration capability with the platform so that you can get the information that you want out of the platform very easily, and then use it in whatever context you need to. You can use it in RUI if you want, or you can plug it into whatever tools you're used to using to help you understand how things are running in your particular area of interest. So these are all great things, I think, personally speaking. But we want to make sure that other folks get a chance to play with it as well. This was announced in a couple of other sessions, so you may have seen it. But we have a free version of our software. It's a community version that we'd love for you to download and try. It includes the capabilities of doing any kind of automation. We have a ton of great content that we've created to help you really nail the deploy use case, walk you right through all the steps that you need to be able to do that. And it's free for you to download and use. I actually, when RJ was announcing it the other day, one of the fellows I was sitting next to, he actually went to this website and he started downloading it, which is amazing that he would be able to do that on this network that everybody is sharing. I imagine it probably took him a little while because it's not a small download, but once you've downloaded it, it runs on VirtualBox. You don't have to configure anything, it just works. And you get 10 free agents that you can use to actually do work in your environment. DevOps is not tools. I'm going to end with this. This is my final slide. DevOps is not about tools. DevOps is about the community and it's about learning. So that's why we sponsor this conference. That's why we're underwriting this conference. At the same time, to keep the conversation going throughout the year, we have this thing, it's called C9D9, Continuous Discussions. We invite anybody to come and join. If they'll let me on the show, really, anybody can do it. It's not that hard. If you are interested in watching, you can go to ElectricCloud C9D9. You can just look it up on Google. You'll find it. We found a pretty unique name for it, which is great. And we would love to have you join us and talk about things that are interesting. We have a whole layout of topics for the future, and we'd love to have you come and join us. Our next one is on Docker and containers in your CD pipeline. That's coming up on November 3rd, so we hope that we see you on the Hangout. I'm going to stop there. I'm perfectly on time, which is awesome. Unfortunately, I should have given some more time for questions, but I will ask now. Are there any questions that I could answer?
You have 5 minutes.
Great. Any questions? Make sense? You're going to go download it now? Who's going to download it? Raise your hand. Anybody? All right. Got a couple folks who are going to play with it. Question?
That download with the free 10 agents, trial-wise, is that fully functional?
That's a good question. So the question was, is our community edition fully functional? And the answer is absolutely yes. There is no functionality limitation except for our ability to do clustering and high availability, because we limit you to being able to run that on that single virtual appliance. You get 10 agents to do work on. Again, you can do any kind of work that you want with them. It's sort of geared towards deployment automation, but you could do anything really with it. If you wanted to have it make a Rube Goldberg machine, you could do that, right? And that would be absolutely okay. But there's no sort of, we haven't kneecapped the product, so there's a lot of power for you to play with. Great question. Yeah?
How do you license your product?
How is our product licensed? Our product is licensed based on the management server and the number of hosts that you are needing to run. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? No. Great. All right. Thank you, everybody. And if you want to stick around, I'll be talking a little bit in the next session about how you take something that's already fast and make it insanely faster, which is great. How do you make that evolutionary process go 61 times faster? That's kind of neat. All right, thanks.